So work-life balance is scam.
I wouldn't say work-life balance is how you interpret work-life balance, right? So doesn't apply to everyone. It's very personal. Work-life balance to me, I've explained it to many of my colleagues, is basically is you work for the 30 years, then you enjoy life for the next 30. Okay, so
Yeah, so we're back in the studio, Chills with TFC. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And today I have a very special person in studio. Cannot say retiree.
liberated, not retired.
Liberated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to introduce your liberated soul to our audience?
Yes. Hi, I'm Wyson, otherwise known as Wyson. I was just telling Reggie that recently I've decided to step into a new life journey after working for 34 years and 26 years with the same company.
Crazy. Right? So I actually saw your story on LinkedIn. That was the reason why I was like, I must talk to this person. Right? You wrote this long LinkedIn post as your exit post, right? You left your journey. Or
well,
left
it's a gratitude post.
Yeah, gratitude post,
Yeah.
left that part of your journey with OCBC, right?
Yes.
So 20 over years in OCBC, crazy. That's why I wanted you to come on to talk a little bit about your journey, because I was quite inspired by that post, right? And to just kind of understand your journey here. How do you end up here? How did your life and how you look at life and money and all that, as you develop and evolve, right? Because you're not born and bred from.
It all started when I was 17. So completed my secondary school education. So at that point of time, with everybody, right, you're looking for options, right, to further your studies. So some explore the path of going into what we call Form 6 in Malaysia, which is your junior colleges. But majority looking for private education to pursue diploma, take a certificate, right? And of course, there's one privileged group that has the ability to go for higher education, which is university. So at that point of time, we were just going through that process. And I can still remember vividly one morning, I have a stack of brochures of courses that I think I wanted to take. And I wanted to show my parents, right, that maybe I can pursue a diploma course or a certificate course. But that is where it dawned upon me. The comment that was made is, maybe you should start to work. Right?
Those were the days.
Yeah, and I think at that point of time, I wasn't really prepared for it. So it was a bit of, what? Work? I thought I could go and further studies, right? But the reality hit that my parents still have my 3 other siblings to feed, right? The best option is for me to find a job and work.
And it's quite common back then, right?
没有
讲到很老啦, it's just 30 years ago, okay? Not too... So relax.
Yeah, I think it's fairly common, but we are not all prepped up for that. I mean, at the age of 70, you'll probably think that, okay, you want to go and pursue your studies, get a diploma. Hopefully, you have a better chance of getting a better paying job, right? Because with a secondary school education, you can't really...
You can't do shit, right?
You do a lot, all right? So you just imagine you have your O levels right now.
Yeah.
So I didn't really think so much of it, but it was really a shock. The mind just went into, okay, go and find a job, right? And started to talk to friends who are working on, right, and say, hey, how to get a job. And coincidentally, at that point of time, there was a job advertisement by OCBC in Singapore. We're looking for clerks, computer operators, tellers. And I applied for that job. And within, I think, about 2 weeks, they wrote to me and asked me to go for an interview in KL. So bear in mind, I come from a very small town in Malaysia, right? So
what's the name of the town? Shout out to the name.
The name of the town is called Paribunta. It's actually in Perak. So it's in between of Taiping and Penang. So then I have to make my way to the big city to get interviewed. Once I'm done with that already, right? Within the same day itself, they told me, oh, can you make your way to Singapore or not?
So fast?
Yeah, it was very fast. Right, so it's like, okay, right? Then it's like, went back home, shared my news with my parents, and within a couple of weeks, I was already in Singapore. That's the beginning of my work career.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. And you stayed in the same place for so many years. Why OCBC? Why do you say? I mean, this is not a recruitment, right? HR should sponsor us, but this is not a recruitment for OCBC. But why do you stay in the same place for so long?
Well, I mean, just to clarify, right, I started working with the bank for 3 years. Then I left and I rejoined again in year 2000, and from year 2000 all the way to 2023. All I can say is basically is when you choose an organization to work, it will come to a point of time, right, that the culture of an organization will be one very important element, right, to make you feel that you belong into some place. You feel that the things that you're doing it for the right reason. You will feel that you have a community of an ecosystem, right, that you can depend on to grow yourself over time, right? So when I left the bank for the first round, it was more of a curiosity of trying to know what is happening over there, right?
I
And
mean, you were 20, right? You came here at 17.
I'm
3 years, you are 20.
20.
Barely started.
Yeah.
Yes.
So within that age from 20 to I think about 28. So I was exploring different roles. And I was very fortunate that those roles that I took on, right, I have very good bosses, right, who gave me better perspective on what you should be as a professional, right?
What is a good boss?
A good boss is someone who spend the time to nurture you, able to tell you what is right and wrong, and give you an opportunity to be able to try new things, although you may not think you're ready yet for it. They trust that, you are going to do a good job well. And I think when you fall, they provide a trampoline that cushions your fall. You won't break so much, but also enable you to be able to bounce up back again. Right. So I was fortunate to have.
So how
bosses like this.
vital were these good bosses in your pursuit and your development?
Very, very vital, because it shapes my style of how I work with my peers. It shapes my style on how I help those people that are coming up the ranks. Right? I mean, if you don't have those type of values being built in the formation years itself, then it is very difficult to be able to pass it on back again. Right? So I was fortunate to have bosses that were very generous.
You want to shout out to any?
Yeah. Too many of them, right? But to say that, I'm just happy that they were part and parcel of the journey that I've built to where I am right now.
So what is one thing that is very valuable that you pick up from those years that you still value it today as a professional?
Well, when somebody falls, try to cushion it, provide an opportunity for the person to bounce back again.
But that one quite standard, everybody says that, but it's very hard to practice.
Yes, it is very hard. So that's why you need to also be able to have the ability to protect.
So the politics need to come in.
Well, I wouldn't say politics, but at the end of the day is, as a very senior person, you need to also be mindful that the people that work for us, right, are also growing, whichever level that they are. And there will be times that they will be making mistakes like this. And I think you want to be able to provide that cover so that they are able to learn from it, right, and know how not to repeat it back again.
And is there a cap to the cover that you provide? Like you max out this cover, it's like, okay, I enough. This
values I mean, that's where the line draws. There's certain values that we operate in any organization, right? And you cannot cross that line. I've made it very clear in all of my conversations, right, to say that the organization will find whatever way on, right, if you have made a mistake, but you cannot cross the corporate values. That line.
So what is one line that is very strict?
Integrity.
How does it manifest? Because a lot of these things very standard, everybody
because
says. So
I work for a bank.
Yes.
Trust is very important, right?
Yes.
You cannot break that trust. Once you break that trust, you will see very bad events happening. And you can see recently what happened to SBV, right? The Silicon Valley Bank. It's just basically people felt that, they cannot trust the bank anymore and they'll run with it.
There's a bank run.
So I think it is very important that the trust must be there. So the way how the corporate values of my organization that I came from to talk about integrity is you must know to know the right thing when nobody is looking at it.
So then if you find out that someone does not have the integrity, then they have to go. Is that how you decide in the organization?
You have to evaluate the circumstance or what. I mean, it is something that you have crossed that line and we have communicated it and you knew about it, right? Then obviously you have to accept the consequence.
Because these days, I think more and more people are increasingly feeling like there can be more flexibility, like more egalitarian, like organizations can be flatter, you can be more of yourself. Do you want to debunk this myth? Like in an organization, there are organizational parameters that you cannot cross. Or it's like over the years you feel like it has changed, like it has become more flexible in some ways?
Well, I think flexible comes with responsibility, right? So I think we are the intersection, right? on how the flexibility is given versus the responsibility that comes with it. And I think the big debate right now is the whole work from home, work from office, and right.
So what's your take? What's your hot take?
Well, to me, it starts with basically is you make it very clear while the flexibility is given, it comes with accountability, responsibility. You cannot have one or the other. It has to come with the same thing because you will be working from home and the organization trusts you that you are supposed to continue to be able to deliver what is needed for you, and the flexibility is given that you have more time to adjust and to deliver it. So as long as you are able to demonstrate that, I don't think there will be any issue behind it. But it takes a while because the larger the organization, the more complex it becomes because you have so many different roles. There are certain roles that you cannot work from home, especially frontline. You have to see clients, right? That comes to the branch. So it requires a bit of adjustment, right? But I must say that it is already a big step compared to 3 years ago, where
it's an outright.
Where is I want to, but I don't know whether I can do it. But right now, because of the things that has happened, that it forces everyone to work from home. Some of the myth of the person cannot produce work at home actually has been taken away, right? I think right now it's just basically more of trying to find the bridge of where can you get the best output. Because there's values of coming back to work also in the office. You get community, right? Because working from home, you tend to be isolated out. While it's good that you have a bit more time to reflect and think and to do deep work, but there are certain type of exercises and it requires the community to be together. And as much as a lot of people say you can do Zoom calls and all those, but when you start to workshop certain things, right, you need that the face-to-face to be able to mold and shape things.
I fully agree with you on this front. I feel like it's the corridor management problem. A lot of middle managers cannot move past the corridor management. Say, hey, remember that thing from that day? Hey, remember last week that thing? Hey, have you completed that? You must move away from that to find more comfort in letting your people work from anywhere. It's not just from home. If they want to be in Bali for the whole week, why can't they work from there? If they want to do something else. But at the same time, certain exercises are great, as a group. It's very hard to do brainstorming over the internet. I got a whole space for you in the digital front. It's very hard. So I think that part will have to take some time, right? But you essentially went from a clerk, right? Like the ground person all the way up to the C-suite, right? So what was your, maybe you can share with the people that don't know you, right? What was your exit like at the last role that you were managing? Like what were you doing with OCBC?
Okay, so I returned back from international assignment of 6 years as the consumer banking head in Malaysia for the bank. I went back to mothership and assumed the role of head of group marketing. So that was my final role.
Nice. So how did that journey look like? What are some things that were important in you becoming like that? Let's say some of our listeners want to be like you, which I'm sure that there are people that want to move up that ladder, right? And it's not just hard work, right? It's not pure hard work and then you'll move up there. Got some, strategy, some things, some traits that you must have, some skills that you must have, that is not just pure hard work and pure excellence in what you do. What are some things that you feel is inevitable?
The situation and the path that I took, right, is very, very different. I can't say that it applies to everyone. Right. So I'm just thinking on hindsight. Some, I wouldn't say formula, but some things I think that are a lot more endearing, right, in terms of how you grow yourself in the organization. I think it starts with the fact that when you first start at the role, don't be picky. Don't be too picky about it. You start with something and you got to understand that you're coming fresh from school.
So you are nobody lah.
I wouldn't say you're nobody, but you have...
You very PR relax.
No, the reality is when you graduate from a university, you have only a limited and distinct set of skills that you learn from your university, right? So you got to realize that you have to start with that first. And to be able to do well by giving your time.
That means plus OT, is it?
It's not so much of doing OT, but the thing is basically is your asset that you have at that point of time is your energy, right? Your energy, hence your time and your enthusiasm. That is the one, right, that you are able to expand it quite well with the skills that you have. If you're very picky and you are very choosy on how you allocate your time, then it's very difficult for any supervisor, right, to give you things to do and expand it. Of course, the flip is people say that, my boss gives me too much work. But at the end of the day, you are at the age, right, that is your resource. It's your time and energy. So the more you put in to do those type of work, your output start to be produced. And then people can tell already the type of output of work that you produce. And you have to start with that, right? Then from there, then you allocate a bit more time in building your network. Because most of the jobs right now, right, it's not individually produced work. Quite a number of roles right now requires you working with different people. And you've got to really know how to work with people, because it's a success of a group of people, right, entrusting each other to do the piece of work to produce it. So you also need to start to build your network, because like it or not, there are certain times that you got to chip in more to help another person. At the same time, also the other person right will probably come and chip in to help you out. And I see quite a lot of examples of my colleagues that start from scratch. They possess that in them, which is a very good trait. So when you start in the beginning, the biggest resource that you have is your time, and you need to use your time well, right, to produce certain output. Then you start moving into building your network.
So work-life balance is scam.
I wouldn't say work-life balance is how you interpret work-life balance, right?
I love how I'm just like pushing you into the fire.
Okay, so
yes, what is work-life balance to you?
So doesn't apply to everyone. It's very personal. Work-life balance to me, I've explained it to many of my colleagues, is basically you work for the 30 years, then you enjoy life for the next 30. Okay, so right?
No, the thing is, yeah.
But in reality is, you need to have certain goals. You need to have a professional goal, and you need to have some personal goals. And you need to make sure your personal goals are realistically enough that you can allocate time through the year, because you are given annual leaves. How you use your annual leave, right, to pursue some of the things that you need to do, and to be realistic about it. So for me, basically, is just ingrained in me, because I started with just basically whatever that I have, and the only method that I knew was you got to put the hours in to get to an equal par of anyone that comes in with a university graduate degree. So to me, I use my time.
So do you feel times have changed then?
Times definitely have changed.
Or is it the narrative has changed, but the reality is still there? Like as a supervisor, if I want to promote somebody, is it still that same parameter? Your output must be good, you must put in the work, you must do good, you must double down more than other people.
Okay, it depends on the role that the person take, right? And where you are. So if you are coming fresh from school, supervisors tend to be a lot more forgiving, right? Because you are building your experience set. But once you have it already, then the question is basically what else can you produce? That is where the supervisor will start to test to see whether are you able to take new things that you have never done before.
For example, let's say someone, they're in their 30s, right? They have been in this game for 10 years, or 5 years at least. They kind of know what their footing is. They have decided that I'll stay in this sector. I'm very good at this thing. I will do it. What will supervisors look for me to get to the next level?
Maybe to answer that question, right? I present another point of
present
view.
A case, yes.
So usually someone who is in that age range, right, they will go into a period of what I call the 7 years each. Yeah, because
which is the 7 years you went on the each, is it?
This is like
okay.
But I think it is okay. When jokes aside, right, it has to be a period of time, right, that you have been doing something repeatedly very well. You really can do it with the eyes closed. You can anticipate whatever situation that comes, because you had the practice of time already. I think those people that are in that age range, right, it is a lot more of what more can I do? Because there is an aspiration to wanting to leap up, but they're not very sure what it is. And most of the time, we get entrapped by the circle.
Yes.
Because we are so good at what we do, we feel that we are indispensable. No one else can do as much as us. But that is the one that's holding us back from wanting to try to do something else. So I think that is where the relationship with the supervisor becomes very, very important. Where the supervisor knows how to apply the right balance, right, to let you try something, right, that gives you an opportunity to be able to explore and do well at the new thing, right, so that you can move out from what you are very good and you've been doing for a very long time already, and then upskill yourself up. So not that simple in terms of a formula of doing it, but I think at that point of time, it's about the attitude, right? The attitude of thinking that there's a lot more, but not entitled. Because I do what I'm doing for very long, right, I'm doing very well, I'm entitled to do something else bigger already. That one is a big problem, because if you feel that you're entitled to do certain things, right, then you won't chase things a lot. Then the other person who is a lot more hungry than you will then start to creep up. And when you do that, the next step of that feeling of entitlement will turn into resentment. why I'm
Why
being
like that?
why I'm being passed away, right? So we pass on for that opportunity.
Mm.
So I think it is about the attitude they need to put. And I think someone actually told me and used a very interesting words, right? He said that actually your attitude determines your altitude.
No, so cheesy.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at it, it's real. I mean, for many of us, if you don't have a very good attitude in dealing with real life situations.
So what is a good attitude then? I mean, this is very like everybody say you must have a good attitude, all that, right? And so what is considered a good attitude? What is lacking amongst the people? Why aren't they making a move? Why aren't they progressing in that sense?
I think you have to contextualize to what you are doing, what is needed for the task.
So for you, let's say we contextualize to you, right? Like what is the good attitude that you had that allow you to move further?
Hungry lah, really want to,
Want to piang. I came from the kampong with $500
yeah, I mean,
and two
basically
luggage.
you're hungry that
Yeah.
you really want to do something around it. But I think the other part is also you want to make the person that give you the opportunity, right, successful also, right? Because the person that is giving you the opportunity to do something, right, knows that you may not have the skill yet. But you need to have the exposure to acquire the skill. So when the opportunity is given to yourself on doing it, you can't disappoint the person. And you want to help the person feel that he has made the right decision and making him successful, right? That the work output that you do, right, has also helped him. This is very different from Saka. It's very
not
different, right?
Bola, it's different.
So this is not about polishing the shoes, right? But this is a genuine
which is also important.
Yeah. No, it's the attitude of looking at it, right?
Okay.
If you have nothing and then you keep polishing, right?
Fair, I get what you mean.
But if you have something, right, that you're able to show and demonstrate, right, and attribute the opportunity that is given you, that is very, very different. Because the fact that if you're able to do this, right, other people can see your identity. And then more people then over time, right, will know that, okay, this person has the right compass.
Hey, welcome to the Financial Coconut Podcast Network. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And if you're loving what we're creating here, like, share, subscribe, share with your loved ones, comment in the comment section below. And yeah, we'll see you for great content on Chills with TFC. Fair. So there's a symbiotic relationship with your supervisor, right? You want to move up, your supervisor also want to move up.
Correct.
So if you can help them look good, you also look good, but not just in the shoe polishing way.
Correct.
Like you must
it's
something
output.
to show, the output to show.
Output. Yeah.
But the reality is the structure in all organization is a pyramid, right? Like there's only so many people at the top, right? So as you move up the apex, it gets harder and harder and harder. And there will be a point where this organization no longer gives you the opportunity to move further, or it becomes very competitive. At what point will you recommend someone to pull the brakes from this organization and jump? Or should I actively be looking for opportunities out there that I can jump? Because jumping is quite common these days, right? Not everybody like you, 20 over years, one company, move,
To be fair, I did a lot of different things. I've been given the opportunity to. So that is something that I really truly value because I had the ability to try new things and I was given the opportunity to do it.
If not, you would have jumped.
Okay, it's very difficult to describe. It's just basically that I happened to land into an organization where the environment provides me with growth. The community of my colleagues, my bosses, peers, seniors, right, happened to be there at the time where I needed help and all those. And there was a lot of generosity that came with it.
And the sector was also growing, right? In that sense. Yeah.
So it is hard to be able to tell anyone that when you see your opportunity is limited within the organization, the answer is leave. Why do I say that is because you don't know what you don't know. You may be very successful in what you're doing in this current organization because the environment, the whole entire ecosystem, right, enables you to be able to do very well. And you're part of that machinery to be able to do well. The question is, do you have enough agility the moment you step away and move into another place that you can replicate that success or not? That one nobody knows.
I know what you mean. I've seen so many people that come from a big organization, big banks, big consultancy, whatever, right? And then they are very senior in the position or like VP or like not say very senior but mid-high management. And then they come out, they join a startup, right? Then they galang kabut. Right, because they don't have all the HR department the ENT budget they don't have all those things to support them. And then they feel that they use their OG way, right? The way that they are used to doing things, right? They come to another sector or another space as, startup, fast growing, every dollar is very important, then they all fail. A lot of them, they cannot adapt because they don't have all these weapons, which is why you say like the ecosystem, the environment, it's just not available.
So hence the other statement that I learned is what got you here may not get you there. So there must be that innate self of you at certain interjunctions in your career. You need to be able to start to do a bit of reflection on your purpose. And I think the more senior you get in a role, the purpose becomes even stronger. Initially, it wasn't that strong. Initially, it was all about survival.
The grind.
Survival to make sure that at least I get some decent amount of salary, right? That I can live a fairly comfortable lifestyle. And if I happen to hit on a very big role, then I get a bit more boost in the income, so you can live a bit more comfortably than the rest. But as you move to a higher level, right, purpose becomes a lot more important, because you will come by a point of time, how much money you can make, how much can you really spend, will come to a situation whereby it is not so much about the pursuit of money anymore, really. Right? And that's where purpose start to come in, because you will need to know, am I doing things that I can truly meaningfully rest in the day to know that I've done something well. And it is all about your average, because there are good days and there are bad days, right? But when you reflect on it, right, is your average better than the norm or not, right? Yeah.
So how do I know that is my purpose?
You have to discover it, right? It's a process that you need to take.
So are there certain parameters that once you see this thing, you have a certain feel or something, then you are gonna know you're in the ballpark?
Hard to,
of course,
hard to describe
I will
it.
not ask simple question one.
The
simple question don't need ask one.
No one. But I thought this is chills, right? I'm supposed to chill with you, right?
Yeah, you chill me, then must ask a chill question.
Okay.
Yes.
A simple answer to that is basically you need to work with a career coach. Right? Because there's a lot of reflection that you need to do with somebody, right, that is able to process that information and approach to help you uncover eventually what it is. So it's not that straightforward. Yeah.
And for you, at what point you discover your purpose?
Well, I think for me, the point where I connected to a new purpose was when I started to take my sabbatical break. And I have a lot of people coming to see me. It was actually a very surreal moment, because I didn't realize what was actually happening until I started to see, I'm on my break. Well, why a lot of people come and see me, right? Because
I'm supposed to relax, guys.
Yeah.
Don't disturb.
It's not about, it's not about don't disturbing, but it was very interesting. I didn't expect it, right? And that led to a bit of reflection work to say, hey, what's actually happening to me? And through that, I was able to reconnect with the things that I like. Because through the conversations that I had with them, there was a pattern that came around it. And that led me to being very curious of, there's a very interesting topic, right, that is starting to burn inside me of as curiosity of wanting to learn a bit more. So I decided to go back to school, spent about 8 months in the business school to learn something that is very, very different from what I used to learn when I was attending courses in the bank. I started to apply what I've been trained to learn with other people, right? And then I start to see another set of validation. They said, that is truly me.
And that is why you left.
So a bit of explanation of what drove me to make this big life decision. It was basically, I've reached to a point whereby I wanted to ensure that the identity of the role that I've discovered, right, drives my purpose and my meaning. And I think the best way to be able to do it, right, is to be able to dedicate most of my time, right, to do it. And it wasn't a very easy decision, especially working with an organization that had actually helped me to grow to where I am.
Would you say you're at the crux of like breaking into C-suite, like directorship and all that?
No still not really at that level.
But maybe 5 years, 10 years more. Because do a lot of people feel like, sayang why you leave, that kind of thing. Because you're moving well, right? You got a lot more.
True. But you see, the thing is,
not many people can go from Clerk to there, just saying, right? You had that, right?
But this is what society imposed on you. So unfortunately, most of the time, people tell you what you should be or where you should go. But is it something that you really, really feel that you want or not? It's not to say that I do not want it, but it has come to a point of time, right, is to say that with the purpose that is growing to what that has happened to me, right, it comes to a point to say that, hey, maybe I should give this a shot. to try, to see where and how far I can go. And to me, the measurement of that significance that I can create, right, is the number of people that I can impact to help them, right, to be able to find that breakthrough. And I think this is the reality that a lot of executives are facing today, right, is, like it or not, right, the past 2 years severely disrupted the way how we work, how we live. And the pressures of coming out of this whole entire COVID, right, it's not something that everyone is still getting a feel out of it, right?
I think we're only beginning to unravel the
Yeah.
trauma and all the
Yeah.
rubbish that have been accumulated.
Right. So I just feel that, this is a curiosity and a growing purpose. And I say that, okay, if I can dedicate a bit more of my time, right, to be able to focus on really helping executives and teams, right, to find a way to make sense out of it and break through something, right, I feel a lot more satisfied.
Than just making more money for the bank.
Well,
Which
for
you did
whatever
a great
reason,
job, right?
I mean, going back into a corporate life, right, you can, right? But not to say that money is not important, right? Money is, you need it for the sense of comfort. But I think the message I want to share with everyone, right, is there is always a journey. You have to take those steps. It's just happened that I happen to reach to this stage, right? And to me, it's all about my ability to be able to pay back. I mean, that's as simple as that. And hopefully, if I start to pay back, right, there will be a ripple effect of those who have benefited what I've got, and then they can pass it down. So you get the multiplier effect down the road.
Fair. And I want to cling on to something that you said, that you found a new purpose, right? Like in that process of finding a new purpose, I know that it's a very complicated, a discovery back and forth. It's not so simple. But once you decide to move into a new purpose, what are some things that you have to like recalibrate?
Well, number one is that purpose must be yours and not what other people say you should be.
And if just so happen what you want and what other people say you should be is the same, then it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is where, I mean, it's like a Venn diagram, right?
Yes.
You find that middle intersection. So that one is that is important. And when you want to get those inputs on, right, you need to get inputs from a variety of groups, because you want to avoid a selective selection of certain group of people that will just tell you this thing because you want the person to validate what you think it is. Right? So you need to talk to the different group of people, right, to try to figure it out. So you remove some bias. Two is, don't move so fast. You need to let it simmer in. Why? Because certain things are infatuations. You may get very interested with the ideal. Right? Then when you start to do it, and they say, actually I cannot do it for a long time. For a short period, I don't mind. Right? So it's to be able to sieve out what are those things, right? They are seemingly like infatuations. And those that are a bit more endearing. So it's a process. You cannot get the answer out of a retreat. Just like, wow, go to Bali and hibernate, right? Then
suddenly,
come out, right?
New purpose, breakthrough.
So it is a process, right? It is a process that you take. And you need to find someone that it is able to guide you through it, that help you to remove the biasness, help you to be able to find a way that you can discover and connect the dots.
I think that was great. Maybe last question for this segment. Right? I mean, we have a part 2, on something else, right? So last question for the segment, what is something that you hope young people these days can do that is against the grain?
Wow, very big question.
Because we level up, we start with a story, move, yeah.
Be curious. Just be curious. Make sure that you have that curiosity in you. Not so much of using it to challenge, but using it to discover the why, for the good and the bad. Right? So if a bad situation that has happened to you, right, is to be curious to explore, why is it happening that way? Because sometimes, right, it is just basically a symptom to something else. And if you discover the root cause, right, you get the epiphany of, oh, now I know. But it is a very challenging process, especially you want to be curious of some bad experience. But I encourage everyone to try to think of it, right? The curiosity is a bit more of exploring something else that is there. And there may be a jewel behind it.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for segment 2, part 2.
Yeah.